might need that.
Calling in extraction. Extraction shuttle in.
Alright, extraction is clear.
Alright, go reinforce.
Supply beacon. Reinforcing. Reloading. Request approved. Deploying down a support weapon. ETA minus 1 minute.
Oh, we got one.
Oh shit, never mind.
Oh, fucking patrol.
You will never destroy our way of life.
T minus 1 minute.
Heavy. Northeast.
Dave. Woo! We got guns. Last
T-minus second.
I'm out of ammo.
Pelican will pick up.
Should be on tile.
Pelican
Yeah, I
one
see
preparing for touchdown. Mag's empty. How'd you like to take freedom?
Nukes.
Yes.
Reinforcements.
Alright, we're getting on.
Stand by.
Getting on the plane.
God for samples.
Section 1 minute.
That was good. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was-
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Scarred Thumb Podcast. Your host, David, and it's time once again for another wonderful episode. This time we're going to start off with something that isn't video games. That's kind of crazy, but it is sort of video game adjacent and relevant, I think, for to kind of show you the pressures that happen in the industry, in the creative industries, that might be leading to some of their downfalls. So this is from Anime Hunch by A.R. Medillo. Hope that is right. American company Blackstone Incorporated to acquire Japanese largest e-manga site in a USD of $1.7 billion deal. So, unless you've been living under a rock, and I did see this hilarious article not that long ago where there was a crossword puzzle, for something, I don't know, New York Times or something, and they used manga as the word of the day. It was like some sort of word game. And like boomers were complaining, like, what's manga? I don't know what a manga is. Manga is not a real word. So there's a bunch of like boomers on Facebook getting pissed off that manga was a thing. So I think most people that are young know manga. Everybody probably aware that manga is annihilating, just absolutely annihilating comic books. Like, comic books used to be like a huge thing for young people. Well, they've turned gay, so people are turning to manga instead for, fun stories starring, heroes. I mean, you can even see in this panel, it's got a bunch of shoujin manga where it's like My Hero Academia, Naruto, young One Punch Man, stories about guys, fighting and triumphing. There's no lecturing about morality or, about, how to be a better person or something like that. Well, or how you should be a better person. It's not talking down to you, but let's move on to the article. Blackstone. It's the world's largest asset manager set to acquire Infocom's largest e-meter manga platform. That's one of the biggest private equity transactions in Japan to date. And this really shows, I'm not going to go in the whole article, but it really shows that, these giant mega corporations are taking notice of how big manga is growing, how big anime is growing. And what's kind of worrisome, originally I thought that Blackstone was related to BlackRock. I guess in a certain time they were owned by the same company. But that is not the case anymore. In fact, the leader, Stephen A. Schwartzman, is a Donald Trump supporter. He was a person on the cabinet. Not necessarily, but if you look at early life and education, you might notice something that might disturb some people, but I'm not going to mention anything about that. We'll move on. But, it's not BlackRock ESG per se, but that's not too... that's why the sort of DEI, ESG stuff can sometimes be, I don't want to say a red herring, but it gets a little bit too much focus. Because, look, here's the most disturbing part, is Blackstone plans to expand Infocom's original content, focusing on genres popular with its primarily female readership, a demographic with growing disposable income. And this is the death knell for all male-centric entertainment. Is video games, it's comic books. Hey, I guess if you might have noticed, some of the young adult novels that they come out that is focused on women and how bad they are. But so ESG, DI, whatever. This is women have money, and that's what almost every company in America knows. Women have a shitload of disposable income. Men make more, but women spend more, is how it actually, the economy actually works. So this idea that they're going to buy it up, the Japanese, they're going to, kind of push them to focus on original content focused on women. Is this something that's going to grow and infect more of the industry? Is, more American money going to pour into Japan and kind of westernize it? Because, manga artists, they have to make a living. And they're not dumb. They know that, hey, if they figure out that, hey, if I put like a black lead in my manga, it's going to get pushed like crazy. It's rubber stamped for a anime deal. If places like, I forgot my border here. It's going to get rubber stamped for a deal from, like Netflix or some other streaming site, Amazon. Why wouldn't they do that? Just look at how popular Isekai is and just how much Isekai sort of took over the industry. Like, hey, it's Isekai after Isekai after Isekai after Isekai. Just a gazillion of them right now because they realize, hey, this is popular. Hey, this is going to get me money. Why not do it? And this is kind of the growing concern, I think, among fans as it gets more popular. Women are going to get into it, and then it slowly infects, and stuff that it's kind of the quirkiness and the nicheness that made it appealing to men and just other people, kind of like it's different, It's so, how many times, you could see, Star Wars with, a black female lead and realize that, man, I'd like something different. I'd like something that's not this. That doesn't have, like Rey Skywalker as the, the face of your franchise, or some woman. Just a young man. He's hopeful. He's not being like talked down to. He's got a dream, and he's gonna fight to overcome it. With the force of will and his ingenuity. That a lot of these manga just seem to have like more of a hopeful vibe to them than American entertainment. But I just can. Will this go away if America continues to pour money into it? We'll see. It's definitely going to change the industry in some ways, and it's probably not going to be for the better, unfortunately. But I have faith that it's still going to be better than what America's putting out right now. But hey, maybe the tides will change. Maybe America will find its way back to making comics like it was back in the Silver Age, post World War. You never know. Hey, good morning, JBB. Good to see you. This is a follow-up. This was put out. So this was put out July 1st, and this was a rumor before. This is from Eurogamer by Tom Phillips, and it's not good news. We're starting out with a little bit of bad news, unfortunately. But let's get it out of the way so we can talk about better things. Sega's new Crazy Taxi will be open world and massively multiplayer. So this was mentioned a while back, but this is like the recruitment page that has high expectations. Publisher previously described as a project scope as AAA, and Crazy Taxi was really a fun arcade game, and that's really what the appeal to Crazy Taxi was. Like fast, flying through places, just fun, has a great soundtrack, just a really high-paced, enjoyable experience. Kind of a niche, maybe a niche title, I'd say, but I think it was actually pretty popular on the Dreamcast. They didn't have a ton of standout games, but this is Sega's new strategy. And according to the translation of the opening quotes, Sega is currently testing how Crazy Taxi's traditional gameplay works in multiplayer with unspecified mechanics. I just don't see this working. Originally I thought, oh man, wouldn't it be freaking cool if they took this game and made it into an MMORPG, and then, what happens? And you're like, what the fuck was I thinking? This is the stupidest idea ever, because for a fact, if they do this, it's either going to be free to play and they're going to shit it up with a bunch of crap, or it's like, oh, go to this point. Hey, go to this point. Go to this point. It's just going to ruin what make Crazy Taxi a fun. It's an arcade game. It's a fun arcade game. Like, why? And I've been playing gacha games recently, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why did we go away from arcade experiences? Like, so much of this place is just, so much of games is just empty space and these pointless fetch quests, like that pad playtime. It's nice to have a game that's just like pure focus, like boom, 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 boom. And actually, we're going to talk about something else today. And where did I put this? I'm going to have to bring that up. But, talking about like pause buttons and stuff is another thing where we talk about. But this isn't good. Not good news for Crazy Taxi. Hopefully, well, actually, I don't have any hope for it. It's probably going to be dead, but it'll be interesting to see how bad it is, if it is. Maybe it's a learning moment for somebody to realize that, hey, maybe we should just keep arcade games, and arcade games are pretty good in a way. Yeah, it was. Yeah, Simpsons was great in arcade. And hey, Jack, how's it going, man? And you know what? This July is here, and that means the end of Pride Month. Pride Month is over. But welcome to... Oh, is this going to load? Disability Pride Month. Yeah. Celebrate every Spartan's uniqueness. Disabilities come in many forms. Visible or not. Sometimes they're just in your head, guys. In Halo, everybody can be a hero. What if you don't have... What if you're quadriplegic? What if you can't play the game? Or what if you don't have money to play Halo? Huh? Is porness a disability? Join us in Halo Infinite this month to unlock exclusive DPM 24 coding visors emblem. I don't know. Apparently this messy shit of colors means disabilities. I mean, autism. Honestly, the thing that pisses me off the most is like, I'm disabled in video games because I have autism. Like, folks, I don't think it's autism in video games a disability. It probably makes you way better than a normal person. Wow, look at these things. That's something. Something, all right. Halo, they had the Pride Month. Well, you can't forget about disability in Pride Month. What the? Actually, this isn't the last time we're going to talk about disabilities in this episode. So look forward to that. Let's move on. Let me play this. Here's something, a palate cleanser for you guys. A real fun time. None of this bitching about stuff. Let's look at this. Look at this.
They said
I skipped
this.
Can we expand this video?
There's a hit.
There we go.
Guys, this is a dog right here. The dog is controlling this. Let's take a look.
Ready?
It's so good.
There's a hit.
There we go. All right.
All right, bud.
Buttons.
Ready?
Yes. Good boy. Sit.
Good
Good
boy.
boy.
We're going to get that double.
Yes.
Let's
good
put it.
boy.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, PB, base it. We win. You ready? It's Griffey.
Come
Here
on,
we go.
bud. You got
Top
this.
of the lineup. Excellent
That's
chance
out.
to take it.
That's out.
Go.
That's out.
Go. Yeah.
Good boy.
You did it.
Yo.
Walk off home run. Oh, my God.
What a good boy. Oh, he's taking
That is time. I almost forgot to say it. Can you believe it?
Oh.
They said a dog. Leave this.
Ready?
That's a yes. That is a dog. A dog. Doing a speed run of King Griffey Jr. This is a speed running Shiba Inu. Like, where's Nuke at? You know, why isn't his dog speed running? He just uses it to pick up chicks. What kind of gay shit's that? He could be speed running. Speed running King Griffey Jr. MLB games. So it's done in games done quick. Generally, like kind of a fun thing. Though this honestly shows what a joke speedrunning is can be when a dog can do it. But it's fun. It's fun. So so who cares? You know, it's a fun, cute little thing. Shiba Inu speedrunning King Griffey Jr. And what are you guys' excuses for not being able to do this, huh? And let's take a look. I forgot to put this in here, but let's speaking of like, hey, a dog could do it. We're gonna move over here. Let's move this over here. I got a few of my things. This was a story, and I apologize for playing a clip of a woman on the channel talking. I apologize. Hopefully, we'll make up for it at a later date.
Is consent. There are long-term disabilities, there are situational disabilities, there are temporary disabilities. It counts as a disability. For a video game like Elden Ring is concerned if you have a kid. You have a 2-year-old, you're trying to play Elden Ring, you can't pause. That is a situational disability that you have, where the game not having the option.
Yeah. So people were upset about her saying that having a kid is a situational disability. Personally, I'm more offended at the fact that they use the term disability. I'm like, I don't know if it's the same person here, but having a kid can be a situational disability where accessibility is concerned. If you this whole, I brought this up before, the whole accessibility discussion or argument or whatever you want to call it, community on Twitter is some of the lamest stuff ever. It's this sort of like shaming language, and it's incredibly female, where it's like, oh, how come your game doesn't have X? This isn't, friendly. This isn't accessible to people with disabilities. And of course, they've expanded. Give a white woman long enough, and she'll find a way to sort of fit herself into this space of disabilities. Because you know what? She's got a kid. So it's a situational disability where the kid, he's about to stick a fork in an electric socket, and you got to like run to save him. Or like, oh, his tablet, the tablet, ran out of Cocoa Melon to play, so she actually has to go up and spend some time with him. So, what if you're in the middle of fighting a boss in Elden Ring? What are you going to do then? Why isn't there a pause button in Elden Ring? This isn't accessible to people with situational disabilities. This whole, I hate the disability argument because, one, it is such it's totally based on shaming language. Like, oh, I have this situation I can't control, which having a kid, I think, kind of is a situation you could control. But that's here nor there. Good for her. She's reproduced. And then you got guys like Mudahar, like, oh, it's not the wildest. What a simp. And then he points out this got almost 200k likes. It's not a big ass, but I think the discussion about the pause buttons in a game like Elden Ring and Dark Souls is actually a kind of an interesting argument, because they intentionally don't put pause buttons in it. And there's a channel that I enjoy listening to called the Electric Underground that has made the argument that, like, there is a pause button in these games. It's called don't move. If you're in the middle of a fight, you're going to die, but most of the time you don't move forward. The enemies don't like run and find you. You don't actively get into combat. But this idea that like when you're in the middle of a fight, it cannot be paused, I think is actually pretty fun, and it makes it different than other games. And like in a game like a shmup, there is a pause button, because in like a shmup, it's constantly scrolling and there's literally no break in combat. You can't just stop. There's no fire, place to, or whatever the fire thing in Elden Ring is. There's no rest area in these games. And this idea that basically once you get in a fight, you can't stop the fight, I think is actually kind of cool, and it really fits in what makes sort of Elden Ring and Dark Souls unique to video games in general. This idea that you shouldn't always have convenience. Like, the players don't always have to have convenience, and in some ways it makes the game worse. Like when I have like these quests that I've been doing in like these MMO or these gacha games, they'll immediately have like this giant exclamation, like red exclamation point, like here's your target, go to it. And in some ways, I'm happy that I can get it done quickly, because the quest is lame and just really like, oh, go here, wow, move to a place. That's a really interesting quest. But at the same time, like you've removed any sort of accomplishment, any sort of thought in making this and actually completing this quest. So you just completely trivialized the sort of gameplay, if you can call it that, by adding these accessibility features. So I'm actually glad they don't, and I always hate when I see people advocating for this, especially using like, oh, it's not accessible to people with disabilities. Who cares? To play another game. Or like I've seen people with Elden Ring, like a guy like using this sort of like mouth thing to control it, like he's like partially paralyzed and using his mouth to beat Elden Ring bosses. Like, you can do it. There's nothing stopping you. And then the other thing, I had someone respond say like, you know what, just die then. If you have to and restart, it's not like death actually has any sort of meaningful, like doesn't knock you back in any meaningful way in a game like Elden Ring or Dark Souls. So just put the controller down, take care of your kid. Oh, crazy. I know that's crazy for a woman to have to sacrifice something to take care of a child. But anyway, let's move on from this. I might have to think about, I think that's kind of a subject for an essay or something to talk about, but I'll have to do more writing on. So let's move on. I apologize for playing a video of a woman speaking on this channel. I'm going to try to avoid it as much as possible. Oh, this is funny. This was a funny... It's always funny to make fun of Europe and England, because they're all, oh, did your kids get shot up at a school? Oh, your kids in another school shooting? Lamau? They've always like this on Twitter. But guess what? This is a man... They don't have the... They're so jealous of the freedoms we have. It's incredible. This is just a funny story. I mean, it's sad for this guy, but funny for us in America. Man sentenced to 4 months in prison for carrying a 6-inch master sword in Publix. Is that a master sword? Or are you just happy to see me? A man sentenced for 4 months in prison. This is by Wesley and Poole for carrying a 6-inch master sword in public, as reported for Eurogamer. 48-year-old Anthony Bray of Newton in Warwickshire, England. I have no idea how to pronounce that city's name. Was spotted carrying a replica of the iconic weapon from Nintendo's Legend of Zelda series openly in a local town center. Oh no! He's on a quest. Warwick be spotted Beavis. Oh my God! Beaver CCTV walking down the street. Holy shit! I'm so glad I'm American. 4th of July just happened. I'm so happy to live in America where police don't spot me on closed circuit TV carrying a master sword and then arrest me. Was approached by officers with the item visible in his hands, which at point he was arrested, he was carrying a bladed article. Somebody claimed it was a fidget, something to keep his hands busy, and that he bought online. But police said that because it was a sharply pointed item, it could be used as a weapon and put others in fear of the item being used against them. Yep, I'm always in fear of a guy with a master sword. He could do anything at any point. The police said that the master sword was inside a sheath and could be released with the press of a button. Oh my God. Despite admitting them could be received a threatened if someone saw it. Yeah, it's so threatening to see video game props in real life. Insisted that he would not have used it as a weapon. Bray was sentenced on June 8th and given a 4-month prison sentence, as well as ordered to pay a victim surcharge of $195. Spelling of patrolling compadre, we have a zero tolerance to bladed articles in Publix. Bray has fallen a vow of this. It's possible to find fidget toys that aren't 6-inch blades. It's possible to walk down the street holding them. It's possible to not walk down the street holding them in front of you. A bit more self-Bray could have avoided contact with us completely. Oh my God. Yep. England, baby. England and Europe. Everything about this thing makes me glad I live in the home of the free. Oh, we got another good story. I don't always get along with games journalists, but sometimes they actually have a good opinion. But hold on, let me take a drink first. Sometimes they actually have good opinions. And this is one of the cases where they do. Warhammer 40k Dawn of War deserves a remaster. Truer words have never been spoken. Dawn of War and the real tragedy where it got a remaster. Obviously a half-assed one. And this is by Stephen Messner. Clearly a man that at least has good taste in video games. And this is one of the issues. He's talking about basically, Dawn of War is awesome, which I loved playing the game. back in when it first came out. It's probably almost 20 years ago now, so, which is insane to think about. And it is an awesome game. It's just a squad-based RTS. Does away with a lot of the stuff like resource management, where you have to like collect nodes. You go and you either build places for power, or you capture requisition points. So area control is really important as far as the resources go. But this was such a unique RTS game and really fun to play. But sadly, when you look at these games, it is so hard to play on PC now. I mean, one, you can't have any sort of widescreen. The game runs like crap. Even the Steam version of it, I played it on Steam. It does not function well, to say the least. It's so old that it just does not seem to work with current day hardware and other things. But it definitely, I'd love to see it to like get released on widescreen, maybe with slightly updated graphics. I often worry about remasters, them changing it and making it worse. But Dawn of War was just an awesome game. The 40K universe, obviously really fun, very cool characters and setting, and really perfect for an RTS. Honestly, I know the genre of RTS in general has kind of fallen by the wayside. It's nowhere near the powerhouse it was back in the day of the StarCraft, Warcrafts, Command and Conquer type of things. They've tried to, and they have come out with games like that. Age of Empires, but it's really fallen off. I think probably in this age of accessibility. Sadly, when you see just how many people want ease, they realize, hey, you got to appeal to a less niche demographic now. Almost a game that could be playing on a phone. And even when you have competitive games like like League of Legends and that kind of stuff, the MOBAs, which I think kind of took over from the RTS, it just doesn't hit the same way as the RTS does. And Dawn of War, and sadly, Relic, we just reported that they got sold off by Sega. Who knows what they'll be doing nowadays. I don't even know if they own the rights to Dawn of War anymore. It could be THQ that has it. So chances of it happening are fortunately low, I think. But really a great game that deserves some love, or at least at least make it usable on current day hardware. That would be awesome. Ooh, got this story. Ooh, another follow up on something we covered, Tales of Kinzera. So they had to lay off a few people. And this is from Dual Shockers by Rachel Fittis, and apparently Surgent Studios faced layoffs affecting a dozen developers. And the CEO emphasized that it's important to understand DEI, Get Woke, will encourage people to consider the human impact of layoffs. And of course, like, oh no, how dare you celebrate us making bad games, not benefiting. Aren't you a bad person? I love the talk about it. Difficult times. Let's speculate the layoffs on his social media, saying that it's deeply hurt. It's honored that the studio had brought to fruition. Many people are the typical people like, hey, get woke, go broke. Hey, you worked with Sweet Baby, and now you're paying the price. Of course, honestly, look at the guy who made the game, and did Sweet Baby really ruin this game? I think it's doomed to fail from the start, because really this game itself seemed to be focused on telling a story rather than making a good game, which, and from what I heard, the game is decent, but the amount of talking that was in the game, especially for a Metroidvania, a platformer, it just did not seem like a good idea. Like, why do this? And like the story about getting over the grief of your dead father, I think it was a little bit too in your face, and we're not really like subtle. So it's pretty obvious that it might have some problems. And honestly, it got pushed quite a lot by journalists. And, I think it got like Microsoft was pushing it too, because it was part of their platform. And I think this guy definitely got more press. I mean, it was pushed too. Like, it was pushed more than a normal indie game would, because it had the stuff on the Video Game Awards. Xbox was pushing it itself. Like, hey, this is a cool game, African. It checked all the right boxes for them to kind of show it off in their portfolio. But even then, at the end of the day, if it's not, something that captures people's interests, if it's not, a really tight platformer, and a lot of people complained about some of the controls and some of the level design decisions, it's just not going to do well. Sweet Baby or not, or DEI or not, the fact is the game, I don't think, did as well as it could. And I think one thing that they mentioned is, like, the people got laid off because, after the game came out, they didn't immediately secure funding for another game. So they kind of have to downsize. Like, as you develop a game, you have to ramp up your staff. And then as that goes down, like as you're in between projects, if that happens, well, then you have to downsize it. And that's kind of why they did that. But Tales Kanzaru, or the developer, not doing as well as probably they hoped. Is it racism? I don't think so. This is another story. But we're moving on from this. Nintendo. People were praising Nintendo last week. Oh, Nintendo says, could generative AI be used in creative ways? And this is by Chris Kerr, a game developer. And contrary to recent reports, Nintendo hasn't ruled out using generative AI technology, and emphasizes that games cannot be created by technology alone. And AI has always been a discussion that's part of video game developing. Of course, there's a ton of artists on Twitter and X that love to hate on AI. There's just growing people that are afraid. Oh no, we might get replaced by technology. Like truck drivers. People have been saying, oh, don't drive a truck. They're going to be self-driving. Oh, hey, go to college and learn a trade, learn to code, because, we're not going to do anything to stop the influx of cheap labor coming in from the third world. That's just, tough luck for you, blue-collar worker. But now the tables are turned, and learning to code may not be as safe as one might think, or being an artist might not be as safe as one might think. As AI has continued to be a technology that is growing bigger and bigger, and really isn't going to stop. Nintendo will use AI at some point, and there already is. AI is becoming more and more prevalent in areas. Hopefully not, just strictly. I think that's what they're talking about, generative AI, generating stuff. But I mean, the idea that you could you could bring in an AI to sort of train it on Nintendo's assets, and kind of generate like background pieces, or something that would kind of fit in this area, or at least come up with like a template, and then have an artist go in and touch up some area, just sort of fill in gaps, do some of the grunt work involved in making art. That could definitely be a huge asset to people, that save them a lot of time. In a statement, that's completely ruled out the possibility of using generative AI deployed with Nintendo, while acknowledging that video games would always need a human touch, and that's 100% true. You need some sort of style, some sort of creative vision in a project to really make it something special. And Embracer rolled out a new AI policy. It claimed it will massively enhance development by increasing resource efficiency and adding intelligent behaviors, personalization, and optimization to gameplay experiences. And one other thing in AI that I haven't gotten is, as far as like using NPCs. They mentioned that Ubisoft is harnessing tech to create neo NPCs that have more diverse backgrounds and personalities and can converse with players in real time. I don't know if that's ever going to be like a real thing. It being realistic, as far as an NPC that's able to generate new dialogue or respond to you in a meaningful way. like, talking to Siri can sometimes be kind of fun, but it's, it's like just a novelty for a little bit. Or, like, kind of like any of those like play buttons, Google Home, or Amazon Echo, or any of that stuff. Will that actually be fun? Never be realistic because, hey, how's it going, Exeter? Never be realistic because you can, oh, I hate this, because you can't be realistic in the game setting. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You gotta, well, though, you might be able to program it to kind of deal with the choices people can make, though I did see in one article where they basically only have like, 5 different outcomes that the person could take. So despite the AI generation, it's not like they can do everything. They still need to be programmed to actually do the action. So AI can only do so much from that perspective. That's interesting. So people were like praising Nintendo, but Nintendo isn't ruling it out. And I think eventually they will be using it quite soon because, if everyone else is using it and they're saving time, and it can potentially be something that that works well, Nintendo's going to do it. And that's actually usually kind of been Nintendo's MO, to just sort of take stuff that kind of works and make it better and then just run with it. They're usually not the person at the cutting edge of technology. As you can see from like Switch, the Switch, the GameCube, they're always people like, hey, we're not going to use the latest tech. We're just going to stay behind. We'll just make some really good games that people are going to enjoy, and they're going to want to buy our system. And it's worked for them so far, so how can you complain? Let's take a look. This was actually an article from Pocket Gamer by Aaron Estel. Pokemon Go is celebrating its 8-year anniversary. I don't know if you guys can believe that. 8 freaking years since Pokemon Go came out. And it was a wild game. Honestly, something that kind of captured the culture of America. American culture. It really became a thing, like Fortnite. 2016. Good Lord. That's been 8 years ago. Anyway, enough of me arguing about how old I am. Augmented reality, and it was so wild to see when it first came out, because like the idea of like seeing people out in a park, and like it was like old people too. I'll still remember the time me and my brother got into a car. We rode it on the backseat like this random like old couple my brother knew from playing Pokemon Go, and we sort of like playing, like they were literally like, maybe 70, 80, this couple just playing together and having fun. Like it was insane. It was insane to see people that old playing a video game. And I'm thinking like, wow, this is a wild, it had a potential to be like a super wild game. I don't think it ever really got to that point, like where it's bringing in, people of all demographics. It kind of ended up settling into your typical demographic where, it's like, 20, 30 somethings, with, free time and, maybe limited responsibilities. I don't know. But it's always, though I will say, even in the sort of AR space, it's not quite your usual people that you'd expect to play a video game, where it's like, there's a lot of women that play the video game. If you see like in the raid nights, it's mostly men, but there'll usually be like a woman or two that kind of show up and enjoy playing it. Because like there is like a more of a social aspect to these games, and I think that does appeal to women, where they could go out, with their husbands sometimes and play games, play together, go out in a park and walk, beat people. And that part of this stuff is really nice. I think Pokemon Go itself was not the best as far as like games go, and this article kind of talks about it. I played Pokemon Go for 365 days, and it's still only Niantic's second best game. And then Go, maybe biggest game, but can still learn a thing or two from Monster Hunter now, which is a game I've been playing quite a bit. And I agree, Monster Hunter now is definitely better. But let's get into the article where they talk about you can stick to real Pokemon. And this kind of goes into let's see. Let's move down a little bit. Start to talk about Pokemon Go. It's simple. 7th anniversary has 603 different species. It's insane. You can actually transfer them to the Switch, and even Go doesn't feature all. There's 1,025 Pokemon species now. Holy crap! I cannot believe that. I cannot believe there's this many Pokemon. I think they really have an issue as far as how to implement all of these in a single game. But raids, and this kind of, I think where he goes into it, and I think he's right about this, that I want to talk about. Raids are Pokemon Go's main source of rare, powerful Pokemon, but starting at level 1 trainer in 2023 left a lot to be desired when facing off against 5-star legendary Pokemon. Plainly, they weren't possible to beat, effectively locking me and many novice players out of Pokemon Go's most exciting new content, unless you've got a local friend who's already invested in the game for years. Providing these long-term players with more gameplay and fiercer battles is a smart reward on Niantic's part, but it does demotivate newcomers like myself from getting too invested. The mountain's just too high. Even 1 year later, at level 33, I rarely attempt raids. Instead, stick to catching Pokemon in the wild, officially missing out on the key part of the game. And this is 100% true. Like, if you want the strongest Pokemon to actually fight in raids, you have to do raids to get those Pokemon. So it really is self-defeating to have to play these things, and it's so necessary. At least with Monster Hunter now, you collect monster parts, you don't collect monsters. But after you get these characters and then level up the characters too to make them good, I guess you could somewhat equate it to leveling up a weapon. But at least with Monster Hunter now, the weapons that you have available at all times without using raids are good enough to beat any monster you need to. So, the community days, he talks about community days are good, but I think the raid issue with Pokemon Go, they managed to solve it in Monster Hunter now. And then we talk about, Pokemon Go's new this time Capcom, anyway, talking about Capcom. Now its prime advantage is a vastly superior multiplayer mode, allowing isolated players to join distant strangers in team-based hunt-a-thons. This made it possible through a link system where certain hunting points are mirrored in many locations, meaning the player who joined from any of those points can be matched together to take down a more challenging monster. This can also be joined for free every 3 hours in exchange for ultra hunting tickets. So they took the raid system rather than having remote raids where you have to pay money to join other people, and then end up becoming like a really almost like a degenerate way to constantly level up. So like if you could just whale like crazy, you don't actually have to go out and play the game. You could just use stuff like a Go Genie, or sort of like apps and a bunch of remote raid passes to sit in your home and play the game, and collect these powerful monsters, powerful Pokemon, and candy and stuff, level up materials for them. And this sort of like became an issue for Pokemon Go, where Niantic's been trying to scale it back because they want people to actually go out and play it. At least, with the Pokemon or Monster Hunter Now raid system, or their version of it, you actually have to be at a raid point to play the game. I think that basically, and they've done like a good job with other Monster Hunter Now features, and I'll probably talk about them more. I think it is, as much as monetized as it is, it actually is an extremely friendly, free-to-play game. So it's they did a really good job with it. I think it's a much better game. And actually, I'd like to talk about it in comparison to gachas, because I think that's interesting. But I'm not going to go super into it right now, especially since I'm almost at an hour right now. But so we're going to talk about Zenless. I want to do my review for this week, or maybe I'll call it. I think I'm going to call it a first impressions since a lot of people took offense at calling it a review. I mean, maybe it's a better word for it because I haven't covered. I don't think you have to cover all materials to have a good impression of the game or like do a review of the game. Like, because I mean, if it's bad right at the start, then the game's bad. You know, it's not like, oh, play 20 hours and you'll and then it gets good. Like, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But we'll start off first. This is from Park Place by John F. Trent. Hoyoverse announced its latest title has already surpassed 50 million downloads. So it already had like 40 million people pre-registered, and it's already have 50 million people. So it's an incredibly popular game. You know, Hoyoverse always gets a ton of people playing and downloading it. We'll see how it does in the long term and how much money it generates. But so far, it's doing incredibly well. Very big. And of course, I mentioned this last week, but, you know, kind of showed you this graphic of the just how much money some of these games make. And of course, Hoyoverse at the top, making almost almost $1 billion. Is that $1 billion? Oh yeah, it is. Let's see. This is a lot of money. This is almost too much money to actually, you know, making millions upon millions, almost $100 million with these two together. Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. And of course, actually, if you include the global markets for it, it's over that much. That's an insane amount of money being generated by these games. But let me, we're gonna get into it here. Get into my review of it. But first, I need to actually bring some of this stuff up. I need to take a drink. Whew. Let me just play this. I'll take a drink out. This is Zenless Zone 0. I'm not. This is sort of the combat of the game, but let me let's bring you to. So I've been playing it. What do I think about Zenless Zone 0? Well, it is a gacha game, so it has all of these gacha game tropes in it, where tons of character upgrades. You have to upgrade your character level. You have to upgrade your skill levels. You have to upgrade your core skill levels. You have to upgrade your weapon, which is like a W engine, and like there's 6 different discs that your weapon can have, and each one of those discs can be leveled up, and they have random stats that make your your weapon more optimized. And of course, the weapons you get can be randomly acquired through a gacha of its own thing, and like if you spend more money, you get even better weapons with the gacha. So you have all, of course, leveling up all this stuff requires stamina in order to progress these things. So when you look at just how much stuff is in here to level up, and of course, let's look at the quality of these quests. That's always like giant red exclamation. Go to this giant red exclamation point and talk to somebody. This is the kind of quest level that the game is filled with. Oh, I mean, look how cute that dog is. I mean, that's the really positive of it, is the animations and you get a doggo that is happy to see you. And you just, hey, scratch off this ticket for a random prize. So it fits a gotcha gambling perfectly. So you have these pointless fetch quests all over the place. There's more story than there is actual like gameplay and combat in the game. Again, so like, hey, walk next door and then talk to this guy, and he's going to tell you a story about what's gone wrong with him, and he'll give you another quest, which might be fun, and it might not be. So, and they also have unskippable cutscenes, which is another thing. Like if you look here, which extremely well animated cutscenes, but they're unskippable. And one of the reasons that they do this is related to the gacha system. Because one thing you do in these gacha games, because they always give you like a certain amount of free pulls, free like coins to gamble with to kind of get you going. But what you could do is just make another account and do it again. So they basically have to like pad out these and pad out some time. That way it's a lot harder to just go in and reroll. Let me turn the sound down a little bit. So they'll put in like unskippable cutscenes like this, which I mean they look really nice. Not really, again, really good to see, but the fact that they need to add this level of time, because re-rolling takes about 40 minutes to do. So this is basically just here to stop you from doing that. Because, I mean, God forbid you get the characters that you want to get when you first start the game. Yeah, they got to encourage you to spend real-life money. So they don't want you to do that. Well, one of the things I will say again for the game, as for the game's credit, is that these animations are really nice. The presentation's, top notch. They clearly put in a ton of money to make the stuff look good. I do have it in Chinese. I switched back to Japanese. I wanted to try in Chinese first to see, let's say that's the native language of people who made it. Not everyone liked this sort of style of this because they went really exaggerated with a lot of the kind of proportions and art direction like this, but honestly, I'm glad that they went this way instead of the other way. I notice a lot of times with 3D graphics, 3D models, they do tend to be very stiff and not like super expressive. Damn it! But with this, I think they did a really good job. I like this style, but it isn't. I can understand why it may not be everyone's cup of tea. I know my brother is kind of doesn't seem to like how exaggerated it is. I also like, this is the benefit of free play games is you have some great physics on some of these characters. This was a really, really fun. There is a few things I'm on the fence about with this game. We talked about sort of the bad. So it is a gacha game. So you have to. That's I think the main downside, and like it has all of the stuff with all the bad with gacha games. There's a few things about this, and the combat in the game. I am kind of on the fence about, and people have kind of commented like a general consensus like that might be a little bit too mashy. I don't necessarily agree with that, though it does feel kind of bizarre. One thing I will mention with this is that it's there's no like real movement in it. And if you kind of watch, you can see you don't really move around a lot. You basically dodge and you counter attack. I do like the fact that you can like stun a lot of these smaller enemies really easy. So if you're actively attacking them, you don't have to counter. I think I missed my counter. You might take some damage for it, but you focus in on the enemies themselves, and maybe you move forward, but like look, I just dodge, and then I do a counterattack, and then I dodge again, and then counterattack. So you're encouraged to actually use the dodge button rather than actually move out of the way of the attacks. And then again, so you don't actually have to like space. There's no spacing involved in this game. And then once you daze them, you kind of go into these chain attacks, like you'll see here, which kind of leads people to think that it's mashy, because once you hit that daze, then it's like hit this button, then you hit this button, then you hit this button, and you just do a ton of damage. And yeah, that might come off as kind of brain dead, but I do actually enjoy the combat. I think it's pretty snappy. Though there are some there's also like this team passive system where you have to have certain characters have to share an attribute, either the same team or the same element, which could allow for more space for like more niche characters to fit into. But it also means that you don't have as much. You don't have as much freedom in how you make teams, because if you don't have those certain alignments, then you don't unlock their passives, so you're not getting as much out of the character as you could. Set in this combat, there's no movement. It kind of so there's no like spacing or no spacing involved in this game. You basically just go all out at these guys, and if they attack you, counter or dodge them using a button essentially. And I don't know if let's see, yeah. I mean, you look at the chain attack, where like it'll automatically, if they're not dazed, they automatically attack another character. Or you know if you killed them with an attack. Let me see if I can get to a bigger fight. Yeah, here's a bigger creature to fight. So he's going to attack, and then you counter, and go to another character. Like, no movement involved. They basically home in on it. Or when you switch, they like teleport to the guy and start attacking it. And I can see why that kind of leads people to think that it's a lot of button mashing. And I'm not 100% convinced I enjoy that aspect of the game. And they do have like a big, I mean, you saw how much that giant guy got to do. And this is one of the other issues with the gacha games. Early game, it's super easy. And then later game, you need to spend a ton of money to actually do well in it. But I do think the combat system has potential. It's it's fun once you get into it. But whether or not it's going to be satisfying in the late game is something I can't say. And I will say, like, when you look at it, it is like really, it's actually, this is perfect. It's kind of visually overloading. As you can see, as I just scroll to a random point, you just see this giant like blowing out your eyes, and this happens a lot in the combat. You have like a ton of different things, and maybe you can't see my mouse, but there's several different things you have to watch. Like, you have your own HP, you have the enemy's HP, you have the enemy's daze meter, you have the energy bar, you have the anomaly meter of the enemy, not to mention your decibel meter, which is your special. So visually, it's just a ton of different things to look out for. Though I will say the animations are fantastic. Like, if you look, when you counter it, she kind of uses her blade to slow herself down, and then launches an attack. I love this animation too, when Lucy gets knocked back. You see, like, her boars stop her and then, like, throw her back so she can attack. So there's a lot of, like, really cool details in the game. So visually, it's really impressive. And you can miss the counters, so you do have to have some idea of the enemy's attack patterns. I will say, like, my biggest critique, I think, isn't they didn't really fail in terms of the system. I think the enemy design's lacking, and that's why combat feels a little bit shallow. Because if all they do are just sort of like sort of big attacks that you just have to counter, and then, you know, beat the crap out of them while they're dazed. Because right now he's not doing anything once you get the daze meter up, and you can do a ton of damage. And they made a more challenging mode, but they did it in, like, the worst way possible, where they gave the enemies more HP. Though, in order to maximize the benefits, or, you know, the prizes that you get from completing the level, like, they give you stuff for doing it. One of the criteria is, you know, have to be under a certain amount of time. So if you give it more HP, you just made your job harder. And considering leveling up equates to spending more stamina to make your characters better, that isn't a good proposition. So basically you're just handicapping yourself so you can get less. I mean, if you want to make it more challenging, you should give them more stuff and more rewards. You know, more risk, more reward. That makes sense, right? But in this case, Hoyoverse did not do that. They decided to do it in the worst way possible. And yeah, the difficulty is another place where the game really lacks, and that's like I said, every gacha game has to make themselves super accessible, so nobody hates it, or so, like, everybody will play it and try it and maybe spend some money on it. Let's see. Let's look at my notes. I actually have notes for this. There's also people complaining about the TV system. I don't know if I have let me see if I can bring up gameplay of that. This was one thing that, and people are complaining. They have this stuff, or this TV system, and I'm going to bring this TV up. Let me get this. But I want to preface, but there's stuff like this where you literally walk to a guy and talk to him. People want to complain about the TV system. At the very least, it's a, let's see, I think this will have TVs in it that I can show you. And TVs are actual, like, the thing is, like, TVs are actual gameplay. Something's actually happening in it. There's actual game there with an objective. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, here we go. This is the TV system. So it's kind of it immediately goes into combat. So this is basically, there's kind of a puzzle. And again, like, these early game puzzles are a complete joke, where you have to, like, solve these really rudimentary puzzles. But at the very least, this is gameplay. You know, there's something to be done here. You actually have some sort of objective. Guys, you'll never guess. You have to bring a block to a switch to hold it down. Like, this is the most basic Legend of Zelda puzzle ever. How will I be able to do this? And people have been complaining because it's not combat, which, it's a valid argument. I do like the combat better, but I don't really mind this as much as people have made it out to be. They're basic, like I said, they're very basic puzzles, and I think that issue makes it a little bit boring. But at the very least, there's some stuff to figure out. Like there's some hidden things in it for you to maximize it. And I would rather have this than the fact that the game isn't open world and you don't have these areas to explore. I would rather have this sort of puzzle TV system than having to walk through a bunch of caves and explore it to find, in between each fight. Right now the combat sections are just strictly combat, and then this is the exploration section. So the way they split that up, I think is actually kind of interesting. At least makes it a bit different. So let's see. It's too easy. And the Hollow Zero, it's got its end game system is actually pretty cool. As you move around in these areas, you become more and more corrupted. So there's a nice trade-off between trying to maximize the stuff you get from it and making it harder as you gain more debuffs as you keep going. So I think that is an interesting system, and that actually has been a decent challenge, which I like. So great animations. The game's fun. The urban setting I actually enjoy. It's kind of a nice split from fantasy, which I've been playing a lot of. It's not, to me, it doesn't seem very common. Of course, I've never really been into the Persona games myself, so I think that's more of an urban setting. But ever since The World Ends With You, or I think there was another urban setting game that I can't think of right now. No, actually, that's Persona and Worlds With You is all I can think of. But that's actually been a pretty enjoyable game, just in spite of the crap that it throws at you. I mean, it's experience. If you want a laid back game that is going to try and push you to gamble, but isn't super demanding in terms of your attention, other than some combat sections, which it really doesn't throw in enough of. But that's here nor there. That's Zenless Zone Zero. It's a game I'll probably play a little more of it. I do have some concerns as far as late game, because they always try and push you to get, if you don't have the latest premium character, then you might not be able to do the sort of hardest content they have, which is kind of a lame thing to do. Because why not? Why not let your skill or your sort of knowledge of the game allow you to pass the harder content? In the end, it just comes to having the right stats, the right weapons, and putting enough money into it in order to successfully do it. But we'll see how it goes. It has potential to be a decent gacha game as far as gacha games go. That's it for the podcast, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to redirect to. Let's see. I forgot to set up the redirect. I'll redirect to Post Zero, which they have a special guest on, Stefan Story. I've never heard of him, so it'll be interesting to see who he is and who he's about. Good to see. All right, so we'll save that, and I will talk to you guys later. Thank you for watching, and please like, sub if you haven't already. Support the channel. We're looking to get to 1,000 subs. So far, we're doing all right. So things are going well. So I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.